again, hoping and dreaming.
Yeah, I think that's every week. Pretty much.
What's that song by Aerosmith? Isn't there a song like that by Aerosmith? I Know You're Not White. But
ain't that the pot calling the kettle black?
But work with me.
Work with me.
That
was funny. Every now and then, man, every now and then you come up with one.
There's a song by Aerosmith, and I don't even remember the lyrics. I just know it has something to do with dreaming. Anyways.
Oh yeah, it's playing in my head. I just can't.
And it's super popular.
Yeah,
I think it was even in Armageddon or whatever.
Yeah. Oh jeez, I can't remember it now. Golly, dude! When we don't need to know, it's gonna play all night in my head.
And then you're gonna sit there and be singing, and I see you.
Oh man,
he's gonna be sitting there in his pajamas, rocking out to Aerosmith in his head.
In my head, yeah, exactly. It's like the Cars for Kids song. It'll be playing in my head all night.
So, anyways, I'm Kyle, and this is
I'm Brother Henry.
And you've reached us on Real Talk, and I encourage you that if you are not watching us in our app, go to your Google Play Store or your Apple App Store and type in 1DCC or One Digital Church, and it'll pop up. Download the app, sign in, log in, create an account, whatever, and watch us and get in the chat.
Yep.
There we try to chat live in the app while we're streaming. So if we
Darren said Dreamweaver. Poor Darren.
Wow, my mind just went blank. So anyways, yeah, download the app and we can, read your comments out on the stream.
Yep. Yeah, I know, right?
So anyways, we're going to talk about dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
And today's title and topic is Hopin and Dreamin.
Story of my life.
Kind of like me and Henry's fishing and not catching.
Yeah, I know. Well, the last couple times we did a little catching.
We did a little catching.
Not the very last time, but the last two times. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah,
ain't bad.
So anyways, it's something we all do, right? We all have hopes and dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Henry, have you ever had a dream?
Yeah, I wanted to be 6'5".
How's that working out for you?
I wind up doing it in the reverse. I wound up being 5'6". So let's just say my dream hasn't materialized.
Well, fine. Then I want to be 6'7".
Yeah. My dream maybe will materialize one day.
Better yet, I want to be 6'6".
You'd be Michael Jordan type.
Then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly right. True that. That's right. See, every now and then, man, that hamster on the wheel just gets to running.
It doesn't get to running. It just kind of like does this little gallop and then it trips again. But it gets the wheel spin just once. It's like my hamster wheel is kind of like that of like a lawnmower that won't start. You pull on the rope and everything spins, but then you got nothing.
It just don't run. Yeah, it spins but it don't run.
It spins but it don't run.
Oh man, that'll preach. That'll preach.
Hey, speaking of preaching, we got a cool announcement in a couple weeks. If you happen to be in the Ohio area, specifically Sydney, not Australia, but Sydney, Ohio, we are not going to be playing with Gators, but we will be at Upper Room Church in Sydney, Ohio. If you go into our app, again, download the app. A lot of plugs right there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into the app under events, you will see all the information about the church that we will be going to and getting to minister with. and a lot of awesome things to come there.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, we all have dreams, right? Some of us might have been wanted to be 6'6". Some of us wanted to be in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Some of us wanted to, be doctors and lawyers and judges, and we're trashmen. And you know what? I want to say that, wherever you ended up in life, it's always one of those things of, I wonder what would life have been like if.
Oh man, everybody has that what if story.
Me and my wife talked about, what if we wouldn't have got married? What if we wouldn't have had 3 kids? What if we wouldn't have had 2 kids? What if Henry would have only had 7 kids?
I know. Instead of an army.
Instead of double that.
Golly.
We all have these things in our life that we've either second guessed or that we're dreaming of or that we hope for. And, and some of us have had those dreams play out. Some of us have, the white picket fence, married the right guy, married the right woman, had just the right amount of kids, and then had the job, had the career, had the toys, had the cars, all that stuff. But then there's one thing that sometimes happens is, and I think a lot of us have experienced this, is, have you ever had a dream fail after everything seemed like it was all coming together? Like a lot of us, chase the American dream, right? White picket fence, 2 kids, husband, wife, whatever.
Yep.
A minivan, soccer practice. And then there's something that happens in the marriage. Infidelity. Bankruptcy.
Yeah. Sickness,
car accident, lose one of the kids.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it seems like everything just crumbles and falls apart.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, you went from making jokes to like it just got...
It got real.
it just got real. Well, unfortunately, that's life, right? One day we can be making jokes. The next day, we can be dealing with, loss of a loved one. Yeah, man. And it could be with the same person. Me and Henry aren't guaranteed the next 10 minutes. Nope. So, as much joking and stuff as we do with each other, that could be the last time we ever joke.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And we have to be conscious of that in the way that we treat people. So, for sake of transparency, and, that's kind of what we do here is real talk, right? Right. Like last night, I could have killed Henry.
Oh, no. That would have went the other way around.
I was fuming.
And he was fuming and he was dead wrong.
And I was dead right. See, this is kind of how it works.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. I know, right?
So me and Henry had a conversation.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Right. So me and Henry had a conversation. And I promise this all has everything to do with what we're talking about. Right? And the thing is this wasn't intended, right? But, so, we had a conversation and Henry said, hey, call me when you are ready to meet at the church. Because we were going to work on a little project.
He was helping me with something.
With a little project of his. And I look over at the time that we said we were going to meet, and I didn't see his truck. Saw his car, and I saw his motorcycle. No truck. So, I didn't call him. Because he wasn't ready for me to be ready.
See, you see how you're skirting the line here, folks. You see, he didn't follow the instructions.
Long story short, I didn't follow Henry's directions to call him. But Henry failed to recall a conversation that we once had that said, hey, if you're waiting at the church for me, come next door. I'm just next door.
And so, you know, the funny thing about it was, it's like, even though we were probably not even a rock throw away for hours. I was in here literally on my laptop doing some work. And we were a rock throw away from each other.
And I was literally a text message away. I was a shout away, whatever. And so, long story short, I say all that to, we're bringing together, right?
So we can get to this other part.
Yeah. I just wanted to prove that I was right. No. So anyways, because that's what married couples do.
The odd couple.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah, we're one odd.
Yeah.
So anyways, I came in here and my wife can attest to this. I was fuming. I'm like, it's 10:30 or 9:30 or whatever time it was. I'm like, we're gonna be here till 11:30. I gotta work in the morning, and so I'm stewing all the way over here. And I remember sitting down, and we kind of got into nothing serious. It was just like kind of like this.
If it was Rocky and Apollo Creed, remember when they got in the ring and they were like, ding, and then both got black eyes? That's a story to tell.
And so we had our little moment, and in that moment I wanted to fire back. I mean, let's be real here, right? All transparent. That's what we do. I wanted to fire back, and I wanted to be like, blah, 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 blah. But
keep standing up on the inside.
But in the moment, even in the stewing of what was going on, I had to sit back and say, it's Henry. What am I doing? Right or wrong, do I want to be right, or do I just want to maintain the friendship that we have and not have the night blow up and us be angry at each other and everything? Is the words that are about to come out of my mouth worth the bitterness and everything that it could create?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember after everything was said and done, we ended everything on a good note, and I walked out. Okay, well, I thought we ended everything on a good note. So we ended everything on a good note, and I went home. And I remember looking at my wife, who was already in bed waiting, and I said, you should be proud of me. I said, because if that would have been me 4 years ago, 5 years ago,
mm-hmm.
the synopsis of the circumstances that happened would have been different. And I probably would have just blown up and not thought twice about it and just been like, whatever.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing you say that, because I honestly think that's when you kind of start getting to where you're kind of sold out to the process. I think what the Holy Spirit does is the Holy Spirit tempers you. And so we both can sit here and say that I think over the last year in particular, we've probably grown a lot in humility and being able to give difference. And just as you say that, I left last night thinking that. I said, you know what? Had it not been for putting friendship ahead of whoever's right or wrong, and really obedience to Christ, because this is the thing. God has called us to peace and not nonsense nor chaos. God is not the author of chaos. And so I think there was a mutual thing. And you know how like friends, you mutually submit to each other in a certain way. Even though there's a hierarchy, you still mutually submit to peace and to righteousness within the dealings. And so either one of us could have easily dismissed the friendship we have built over years, not yesterday, years, over something seemingly so small. But see, you know what the enemy does? The enemy pushes you and say, well, do that, do that, do that. And quite often, the loudest voice is the voice you probably don't need to be hearing and listening to, because that's the guy in the background saying, oh yeah, push that rock off his shoulder. Like the two guys were not going to fight, but the one instigator puts the rock on the guy's shoulder, and then you look like a coward if you don't hit the rock off the guy's shoulder. And then when you get clocked and you go inside with a puffy eye, you're the one that paid the consequence. The instigator paid nothing.
100%. And you might be thinking, well, what does this have to do with hoping and dreaming? Because I wanted to make a real point about something that me and Henry both have in common beyond bounds.
Pretty face.
Oh, thanks.
I meant me.
Well, I said we have it in common.
Oh, yeah. I went to public school. I don't know what that means.
Is we, up until each other, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, me personally, I never really had close friends at all. I had people that were friends or acquaintances, but I never really had friends. Because the friends that I once had, you know,
the fair weather friends,
for lack of a better term, screwed me over, and I was basically left with the check, you know, kind of circumstance.
Yeah.
And you know, I was constantly let down, and I hoped and dreamed that one day I would have a genuine friend.
Too legit to quit.
Y'all don't see it, but just off camera to the right, where Henry was just staring, is the screen that shows what's on camera, and he's watching himself dance.
And the worst part about it is I can't dance. I'm the only brother with no rhythm.
But that was something that I hoped and dreamed for. And as the last few years have, came to pass, that hope and dream has been coming more and more and more and more true and more solidified as the time has went on. And unfortunately, something so small could have been the end to the friendship that we have. Now, and am I saying that, we could have got through a disagreement? Yeah, we could have probably got through it. But there would have been something there. There would have always been like a little sore.
And see, what the enemy knows is the enemy knows us. The enemy watches. So the one thing that we also have in common is we're both very strong-willed. Yeah. You'd be a moron not to see that. Yeah. I mean, both of us are very strong-willed, very opinionated.
And I happen to be right most of the time, so.
Jeez, help us, Lord. And there was silence in heaven for 30 days. But see, that's the thing. By the enemy knowing you, the enemy knows what match to strike. Yeah. To cause, and you see it happen in marriages. Like, and the husband looks at the wife and says, say that one more time. Or the wife looks at the husband and says, you bet not go there. And so the thing is, if the enemy can cause you to just cross that line just a little bit, like you said, you can get past it, but you have caused irreparable damage or something that may take a long time to dissipate. So, and I'm glad you brought this up, because I was, even knowing you're kind of oblivious to sometimes the weight of stuff. And we see this in relationships all throughout life, that people have been egged on by the enemy to make life-altering foolish decisions based off of, and I'm going to just tell you what it is, our own pride. Because nothing causes you to cross that line but pride. Fortunately, God administered grace that overrode our pride for the moment. Mm-hmm. And so, but I think the thing is, though, I think we both honor and value the friendship above and beyond necessarily, because either one of us could have walked away even being wrong, and I think we would have probably gotten past it, because at the end of the day, there's a value there that supersedes me being necessarily right. Mm-hmm. And so it's amazing that I think that it played out. And what that also does is the enemy put a test before us. And isn't it a hallelujah moment when you can look back at it the next day and say you passed? It doesn't mean you're going to pass every other one. But today and yesterday, we passed a test that, like you said, a year ago, neither one of us would have passed.
Yeah, and you know, and it comes down to it where, you know, as we're going into, you know, church and different things, we all think that at times we're just going to have these moments of Jesus immunity. Mm-hmm. Nothing bad's gonna happen.
Right.
No bad thought's gonna happen to me because, you know what, I go to church every week. I pay my tithes every week. I teach Sunday school. I'm a youth pastor. I'm this. You know what? Nothing bad will happen to me, and that's not true.
Nope.
Even more so, like, get ready. You know, that's why God gives us the armor of God.
Yeah.
You know, he gives it because he says so you can defend yourself. Mm-hmm. Not attack, but so you can defend, knowing that that Satan is going to come up against us. Principalities are going to come up against us. Demons are going to come up against us because they don't like the message that we're sharing. They don't like the unity. They don't like the things of God.
Preach.
So instead, I'm going to disrupt that. I'm going to create confusion. I'm going to create, you know, a disagreement.
Yeah.
Between friends and between ministers and between this because I can shut down. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody that has watched our episodes in the past know that we rely on each other.
Yep.
To make this happen.
Yep.
And, you know, if there was a disagreement, I mean, is honest as I think we can be with each other, if there was a fall between us, we wouldn't continue. I would love to say we would. Mm-hmm. I would love to say that we would be able to put our differences aside for the sake of the kingdom. But I also know the flesh. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it and be like, I'm, you know, this holier than thou, I can look past everything. No, there's going to be hurt. There's going to be a transgression to the point where one of us or both of us would end up walking away from doing this.
Look at Peter and Paul.
Yeah.
How long did they separate for?
To the
very end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's not that they didn't have respect for each other. Mm-hmm. It's not that they didn't, you know, still, hey, how's things going? Mm-hmm. They didn't care about each other, but they just knew like it was over. Like they could not do ministry together anymore like that.
And so there was loss suffered because of that. We will never be able to quantify it, even though they came together in the end. But what about if they had never had that falling out? If they were able to come to each other and say, hey, bro, this is what Paul could go to Peter and say, hey, bro, this is what I thought. Peter said, you know what? I don't necessarily agree, but let's come to some kind of agreement. And even though we disagree.
What ministry could have taken place?
Yeah, exactly. More people trained up in the kingdom to fight the good fight. So there will be loss when you fall into those spats, when you allow those things to happen. It's inevitable.
And so, you know, as we go through and as we're chasing those dreams, and things happen, there's this gentleman. His name is Langston Hughes, and he has a poem named Harlem. And I actually got this from a devotion that I was reading. And in this devotion, references, part of this poem, and it says, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run?" And that's going to take us into, something, two scriptures.
You gotta go bring Bible and stuff.
I know it's kind of how things work. Oh, unfortunately, I wish that the font would have showed up a little bit better. But Proverbs 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick.
Wow.
But a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." And then we go into Hebrews chapter 6, verse 19 through 20. And again, if you have the app, you can actually read this in the app. Download it. But Hebrews 6, 19 through 20 says, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain, where our forerunner, Jesus, has entered on our behalf. He has become a high priest forever in the order of Melchizedek."
Melchizedek.
Thank you.
A deck.
Deck.
Melchizedek?
Yes.
That's a tough name.
That is. Every single time I've ever read it, I always mess it up in my head.
Melchizedek, take out the garbage. It's Melchizedek, sir.
But so the whole point of, why did you read that poem? The very first part of it was, what happens to a dream deferred? What happens to it? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or does it fester like a sore and then run? So how do we respond when the dream fails? When the dream is pushed off? My check wasn't big enough.
Mm-hmm.
The love of my life married somebody else. My kid hates me. I have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
All of the insert excuses that, in excuse isn't just a negative thing. Sometimes it's legit.
Mm-hmm.
We have legit things that happen.
Yeah, like you could train your whole life to make it to the Olympics, and the day before the games,
tear your ACL.
Tell you exactly. So, is it that the person did something wrong? No.
Sometimes stuff happens. Yeah. It's, again, life, and sometimes it's not even the enemy's attack. It's just life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's human nature. It's our bodies have limits.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
We made a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a king of bad decisions. But how do we respond?
Yeah.
Do we push closer to the God dream? Or do we push further from it?
Yeah.
Do we give up on it completely because, man, for instance, like I was doing really well with going to the gym all the time and, keeping weight down and everything else. And then my back started hurting again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what did I do? Stop going to the gym.
Right.
Stop eating right. Stop doing all the things that I was doing because I was just like, man, my back's going to hurt regardless.
Right. And even in that, like what the Bible says, do you then still count it all joy? Or do you get depressed? So
and essentially, and to be real, is again, it's kind of got me into this depressive state where I don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the kind of depression where like, oh, woe is me. It was just, it's more along the lines of like,
maybe like lack of motivation. Maybe.
Yeah, because it's like, man, like I know even more so now that the uphill climb.
Mm-hmm.
And
the thing battle. Is too, the getting in shape actually helps the back, but you can't go to the gym if the back is hurting.
Yeah.
So it's like a snowball effect.
So, but
it sucks.
Those two scriptures, again, Proverbs 13:12, hope deferred makes the heart sick.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, we have this hope as an anchor for the soul.
Right.
How do you respond? The dream that you have, the dream that God gave you, the motivation that you once had that got taken away for whatever that thing that you hoped and dreamed for. How are you responding when it didn't turn out the way that you hoped?
Right.
When the dream didn't come to pass the way you wanted it or when you wanted it to. How are you responding?
Mm-hmm. That's a very important question, man. Golly.
Are you just letting it go? Because again, it's not the picket white fence that you once thought.
And see, there's a term for that. Quiet quitting, I think.
Quiet quitting, yep.
So where it's not that you overtly just say, you don't go to your boss and just say, you know what? I hate the way you do things. You're an idiot. You're a moron. I quit. You don't do that.
Well, too bad I fired you.
Yeah, right, yeah. And that's how it might end up, yeah. See, they already had that resignation paper written, that firing letter written up already. But it's just like, so instead of just going to your boss and reading the riot act and quitting, you come to work, you just don't do nothing. You just sit at the desk, and you go through the motions, and time passes. And so what you are is you're basically turning into something that's lukewarm. And you know how the way the Lord feels about lukewarmness. And I'm sure that's the same way your boss feels. So the job doesn't necessarily get done. And even you might be doing a job that you really were gung-ho about. Like say if you grew up and you wanted to be, in the army, right? And you get there, but then now your attitude is not right because of circumstances. So even the dream thing that you really want to do and you got into it for all the right reasons, maybe it's now not materializing. Maybe you do go make it to the NFL, but you sit on the bench every game. And the guy that's ahead of you, every day in practice, you beat him like a little 5-year-old. But the coach likes him, so he stays ahead of you. And when they need a first down, Johnson, go in, and you get a first down and then go back to the bench and get my water. So you quiet quit. I go to practice, but I don't really try hard. Even though I'm talented, I'm gifted, God has given me a body to do this. But now my emotions are just all over the place. They're not involved. So now I come to practice, I collect my check, I go home, and I'm just an unhappy mess.
Yeah, and a lot of us do that. A lot of us do that in our marriages, mm-hmm. with our kids, mm-hmm. with our jobs, with our church. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge one.
Yep.
Is, we go to church and we expect something. But sometimes what we expect isn't God. So then when God shows up and he does things his way, all of a sudden we quiet quit because, I don't want to be that person that church hops, and I don't want to be that person that, goes and says, I didn't like it this way. I don't like the way how loud the worship is. I don't like how you guys cast out demons or not. That's not for me.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be that person, so you quiet quit. Mm-hmm. You stop.
That's right.
You start. I'm just gonna take one week off a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna step down from my ministry position because I need to get ministered to. Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna take off 2 weeks a month. Yeah. Now it's 3 weeks a month. Now it's I'm not there at all.
But somebody gave me Bears tickets, so now it's 3 weeks.
and yeah, you know what? We all have those moments. We all have moments of the flesh. I mentioned it earlier. If something, I can't promise that I would follow through and be like, hey, this is what God's called me to because of hurt or whatever. I would like to think that I would.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not naive to the fact that
you're human.
I'm human and I do fleshly things sometimes. Mm-hmm. But we really need to start asking ourselves a few questions. And one of those questions is, how are we going to respond when it doesn't go our way? or how are we responding?
Yeah.
Maybe you might already
There
be
you go.
in.
There you go.
Maybe you're already in that state of responding. And two, this is kind of like a little added bonus, but I think it's important to say is kind of what we were talking about earlier, is the think before you speak kind of thing. Is what are we doing to either prevent, or what are we doing to hinder the things that we've hoped for and dreamed for?
Yeah.
Are we speaking life? Are we speaking death? Are we self-sabotaging,
right?
Because we want to listen to the voice of the flesh,
or
a deceiving spirit.
I have this saying that I've picked up over the years, and you're saying Jesus take the wheel, but you're actively trying to crash the car. It's like those things don't work together. They just don't. And I think what it boils down is to, like what you said before, we don't want to show that we've quit. And that's where the whole quiet quitting thing comes in. We don't want to overtly just say it. And you know to be honest, and it might be a rough way to say it, but I would say for some, if you're playing that game, what's the point of you even going to church? You could just go to the club if it's a social gathering. And I had to say that about myself. For a while, I was so fed up with ministry because I was, again, like you said previously, you put your trust in people and they let you down horrifically. And the problem is, when you put your trust in people, what you're saying is, I'm going to sit in this chair and I'm not going to fall. But people aren't chairs. People will let you fall and they will turn around and laugh at you when you do. And unfortunately, putting your faith in people will always leave you in a state of just having that problem, or a lull of thought, or lull of heart, because people are human and they will fail you. Now, what you hope they do is that they just do their best. So if they do fail you, they go back and say, hey, bro, that was my fault. And that way, you can forgive. But it's like, and I noticed, I went to church and I used to film the sermons, and I would come there just in time to set the camera up. And as soon as that sermon was over, that camera was in a bag and I was in my car driving away. And so I had, in effect, quietly quit. And I will tell you, that was one of the times in my life that I felt the most distant I've ever been from God. It was purely because of my attitude. Not that the circumstances I shouldn't have been angry about. Not that I didn't need better support. Not that any of that stuff wouldn't have been better. But what was my attitude? Like you said, how was I responding? I was responding inappropriately. And so, if anything, even bigger than my circumstances, for where I was, not just physically, but where I was spiritually, a lot of it was my fault. I can't blame you if I quiet quit.
Yeah. And we gotta be self-aware.
Amen.
Because a lot of times, and that becomes a common theme that we talked about over and over and over again. But it happens when we don't get it right. We keep hearing the same message. We're like, well, why are you saying the same message? If you get it the first time, I wouldn't have to repeat myself. But no, and again, this is like a lot. Everything we do, we talk to ourselves. You get face value every time you guys watch us. Sometimes we're not even aware that we're quiet quitting. We just do.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes we don't catch it till it's too late.
Yeah, that's not good, man.
And sometimes the damage has already been done.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already self-sabotaged. We've already, allowed the enemy to come in and take residence.
Wow. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we're like, wow, like how do I get myself out of this situation?
Yeah.
And we all do it. All of us. Yep. There's not a person that's exempt from that. So again, to kind of wrap things up and close it off is to simply say, how are you responding to the detriments of life? The areas that aren't perfect. The things hoped for and once dreamed of. That didn't come to pass. How are you responding? Are you running towards God to fulfill the God dream? Or are you pushing everything away and quiet quitting?
Wow.
So we encourage you this week. Take the things that we say, and we always hope that you guys, take the small nuggets that may be in that may have occurred during the conversation. We ain't got very many nuggets left to give, but the nuggets that are there, we pray that you guys dwell on them and really bring them into your day-to-day and allow God to manifest himself in it.
Yep.
So with that being said, we love you guys, we care about you guys, and hope you have a wonderful week. Encourage you once again, if you're not already, download the app. That way you don't miss us next week.
Yeah.
So with that being said, till next time.
Double piece. See that?
Double piece.
Got two.
Single piece.
Got two.
I'm not carrying my piece.
Cut.